Hello and welcome. Hopefully, everybody is having a good day or had a good day, depending on when you're watching this. I had a conversation with one of my good friends earlier this week, and she was saying how she didn't recognize that she had like a constant headache until that headache was relieved. And I have to laugh because I didn't realize how stressed I had been feeling until stress sort of released today. So it's really curious when we're not mindful, when we're not really paying attention to, and sometimes we're not just aware of it, but how we're feeling, what we're experiencing. It can make a world of difference when we start to be mindful and attend to our needs. So, welcome today. I'm Mary from Rivers Journey Wellness. I am a holistic therapist for about 25 years, a little over that. And I'm also Reiki master, intuitive guide and coach. And I have been on a personal path. Most of us are a personal growth journey, and the things, the tools, the strategies, all of the stuff that I do with my clients, I actually practice in my own life, and I want to bring that to other people, bring them a sense of peace, hopefully a little bit of healing so that they can grow and transform. And I'm showing up today. This is a live Q&A. We'll do a little bit of Reiki infused meditation at the end, and I'm going to pull a card for the energy. This is really a time to get a little information. If you have any questions, to ask it. The theme today is about trusting our own wisdom, our intuitive knowing, and divine timing, and to really have trust in that as well. And I know those are two really big big issues sometimes for us, but hopefully this is some time for you to just reconnect to your intuition, or if you're not really sure how to, I'm going to give you some tips. Why is it even important to connect to your intuition? I'll give you some reasons why, and then we'll do a little practice so we can start connecting to that. Divine timing, yikes, is something that I struggle with. I have an issue with patience. I'm a very impatient person most of the time, and so for me to trust in divine timing, it's a struggle, right? We want things when we want it, and usually we want it now, and that's just not how the universe works. That's not how divine timing usually unfolds. Sometimes we can get those things immediately, and it feels awesome, but it's not always that way. And so what I do to manage that, I'm going to talk about a little bit today, so that if you struggle with that, you'll have some strategies as well. Trust and patience, they're tricky, let me tell you. So I'm going to start. I'm going to do a little bit of a smoke cleanse. I'm going to use a little bit of sage. I have lavender in here too, which sort of is a unique, it's not a unique smell. Lavender is not a unique smell, but it's, to me, it's unique when it's the sage and the lavender. Just take a deep breath in and let it out. Just let out the stress from this week. If you've been having a stressful week, just know that this is time for you to let go and to relax. If you've had an awesome week, hopefully this just keeps with that energy. I'm doing this soul journey group coaching live. I turned it into a membership, which is kind of cool. I turned it into a membership, and I pulled some cards for us at the beginning of the week, the ladies that are in that group, to see what was like the collective energy we were working on. And it was really, really heavy. It was really heavy energy. And I think sometimes we have to go into those pain places and do sort of a deep dive of reflection and see where we are at, what we need to do for ourselves in the moment, and then what we need to do as far as thinking about taking action. And sometimes it's not time for action. I felt very clearly these last couple weeks have not been a time for real action for myself since that new moon in Libra that we had on, what was that, the 14th? Yeah, last Saturday. I really felt like this was more of a time for rest for me. I've been really, really tired. I haven't been sleeping well because I have some shoulder pain, and it's been been hard to sleep with that. And I gave myself permission to just rest in the morning, just take a little bit more time to go through my day slowly, to go through my day more mindfully, to take things off my plate that I didn't necessarily have to attend to. And I think that's one of those times where you really recognize, okay, I'm really trusting my intuition in what I'm needing. It's so important to do that because I think otherwise we get so caught up in like the hustle and we have to do stuff, today, or we had to have it done yesterday. And that just creates more stress and anxiety and overwhelm for us. So really learning to listen to not only your body's rhythms, but then sort of just those intuitive messages. So hopefully, if you don't have a practice, hopefully this will be good information for you. If you do have a practice, that's awesome. I want to hear what you do. You can put it into the chat, what your favorite strategies are for listening to your intuition. We're also going to talk a little bit about how to increase that, how to increase the messages, because I think sometimes with intuition, it can be like so soft and so subtle and gentle. And I tend to miss those. I need it a little bit louder, a little bit more robust. And so, even if we miss those nudges, whether it's from ourselves, from our intuition, or from the universe, we're going to see them coming back. Those messages are going to come back until we pay attention to them. But I think because it can be so subtle, we can miss them. We can miss those messages oftentimes. And I always talk about this, that we can have some programming because of our upbringing, our caregivers. It could be religious or religious authority or whatever. It could be just people in authority, period. Even teachers, as we're growing up, we sort of are taught that we need to defer to them, that they know best, that they know more than us. And sometimes their messages aren't so much to support us, but to alleviate some of their stress or their worry or their anxieties. And so we're following their direction, thinking like, oh, they've got my intentions. They're holding my best intentions for me. And sometimes it's not, but it can negate what we're feeling on the inside. And that can be super confusing as kids, and it can be super confusing as adults as well. So if you have any questions about either connecting to your inner wisdom, divine timing, just the timing, I call it divine timing, but just the timing of the universe in cycles and seasons and that sort of thing, put it into the chat. If you still have any questions from new moon in Libra and that solar eclipse or the energy, you can feel free to put that in the chat too as well. Otherwise, I will jump into my stuff that I wanted to cover. Of course, if you've seen me or you know me, I wrote it down because otherwise I get super distracted and who knows where I will end up. Probably not the place that I started, which sometimes is okay. But when you have something that you want to be talking about, it's probably good to stay on track. So I know this was a head scratcher for me. And if you may have already heard this story from me, because I talk about it a lot. When I started working in the field, I started in substance abuse, and there was more men than women that were coming in for treatment. And for whatever reason, my caseload was typically men, and there wasn't we didn't talk a lot about intuition, about inner knowing, about inner wisdom. We were trying to create behavioral changes in these men, and we didn't go into the really emotional, touchy-feely stuff very often with them. And when I got a group of women together, we had a women's group, we started talking about intuition and feelings and emotions a little bit more than we were talking with the men. Not to be, I know I'm like overgeneralizing, but that's just the way it was. And I was really surprised. Oftentimes the women would tell me, I don't have a gut sense, or I don't have intuition. I just don't have that within me. And I'd be like, yeah, you do. And so it was like leading them to get to that place where they recognized it. We all have intuition. You have to understand that we all have intuition. If you feel like you don't recognize your intuition, there's ways to build that up. It's almost like, building that muscle. There's ways and strategies for building that. But we all have that inner knowing. And that inner knowing is always from our true self, our highest self. And it is for our best. It is for our highest good. Intuition's not going to lead you astray. It's not going to put you in like a tricky situation. It's there to be sort of that compass, that guiding light for us. And we tend to negate that in moments of stress or overwhelm and or anxiety, or depression too. I suppose it could be any of the negative emotions, but we tend to negate that because the fear thoughts are so much louder than intuition. Like I said, it's a little subtle, it's very gentle. And so we can have those moments where we're like, oh, I know exactly what to do, right? Like it just pops in and we feel really excited and certain that this is the way that we should go or this is the thing we should do. So it does sometimes come in that way, but it doesn't always. And so when we have those fear thoughts that are so much louder, we tend to think like, oh, that's the thing that's telling me what I should do or where I should go. So just kind of recognize that one, you have intuition. Everybody has intuition. Now, how you take in that intuitive messaging might be a little bit different person to person. So when you think about the different clairs, like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, all those clairs, that is how you're taking in energetic messages. So when I talk to people about how they receive their intuition, we have that phrase gut instinct or gut knowing. It may not always feel like it's coming from your gut. It may feel like a thought that pops in. You might have a sense, you might have a feeling, an emotion that you become aware of. There might be other ways of that intuition kind of tapping you on the shoulder. So just know that it comes in different ways and there's no right way or wrong way. There's no better way for you to receive your intuitive knowing. It's just unique to you. So however you receive it. And of course people, might receive it in a way that's similar to you, but it's very unique to you. So giving yourself that permission to say, I have intuitive knowing and that it comes in the way that it comes in for me, and that's perfectly perfect, right? So we're kind of good with that. And so thinking about how so one of the questions I had was, why is intuition important? And I kind of had to sit there for a moment because I thought, what an odd, what an odd question. Why is it important? It's hugely important for us. But I just, it was just a reflection of where somebody was at, that they hadn't really heard that this was something that was important for them to navigate their life. So fine. So what I didn't mean to be judgy or critical in that moment, but I just kind of was thrown off because I was like, have you never heard of this thing? So all right, so I wrote down a few reasons why it would be important. So the first one I have down is through our intuition. Oh, we do really pick up good information for ourselves, and we are able to make more informed decisions. So this is obviously we want we want to take in the good information. We want to quiet the stress, worry, anxiety thoughts or the fear thoughts. We want to be able to feel like we're making decisions that work for us, giving myself permission. I know it's just a small instance, but giving myself permission just to rest a little bit this week and last week was fabulous because it really supported that I was feeling wobbly and I needed to feel my best physically, and sleep helps with that, obviously. But I was also taking my time back, and so we make better choices for ourselves when we are following our intuitive thoughts. And this is also going to be, there's like a byproduct in this. We're going to also improve our self acceptance and increase our self confidence. So when we negate what we're needing, when we negate what we're feeling or experiencing, we're really closing off a part of ourselves, or probably a need that we have. We also can just be shutting the door on self acceptance. So we want that. We want to be able to send ourselves um, love and kindness and understanding and compassion. And when we do that, and when we feel like we're making choices that are well informed or better informed, maybe we can feel more confident. Like this is what I need to be doing, or this is what I want to be doing. And so that can help us obviously throughout our day, no matter what it is, whether it's work or personal stuff. So that's number one. Number two, we increase our self-trust. We no longer negate what we know, and we don't defer our decisions to others. So this gives us a little bit more autonomy. So talking about like those byproducts, right? We increase our self-trust. We tend to be more compassionate and kind with ourselves. When we're more trusting of ourselves, more kind, more compassionate to ourselves, we can give it to other people. When people tell me, and this is, usually in therapy, but it can be also in coaching or just my personal life, they don't trust others, or they're very skeptical of others. I always wonder, well, how do you feel about yourself? Do you trust yourself? Do you feel like you don't have the confidence that you're going to make the right choices for yourself? Does it feel very unclear if the choices that you're making are yours, or just what, you're just sort of parroting what somebody else has said to you that would be good for you? And I think this one's a really important one for women, because we tend to, we're usually conscientious, but we tend to take in negative feedback and absorb it and think like, oh yeah, that was my fault, or oh, that was me. And yes and no, right? We could have played a role in that, but we can't fully accept some things that aren't ours, or we shouldn't. And so this is going to help with self-trust, following our intuition, or recognizing our intuition and then following it helps with self-trust, which is huge. So number 3, and if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to interrupt me, put them in the chat. I know once I get on a roll, I keep going. So don't worry about that. Just put it in as you're thinking it. So number 3 I have down is this is huge. We can release some of our worry, our doubt, and even our fear, especially around decision making and choice. Again, so what we're going to be doing when we're tapping into that intuition is we're going to have that sense of knowing, and it feels very strong. It feels rooted. It feels grounded. We feel very centered when we make those choices based on our intuition. And so we calm that part of our brain that's like, fear, right? And the cool thing to me about this is we're going to, when we start to follow our intuition or recognize our intuition, then follow it, right? We're going to be less bogged down either in that like endless mind loop of stress thoughts, worry thoughts, trying to figure it out, sort of that analysis paralysis, or paralysis of analysis, whichever way you want to say it. We're going to not be bogged down in that. And that's huge, because when you think about how much time, how much energy, physical, mental, emotional energy you spend in those like loopings, it's a lot. It's a lot. So if we could get ourselves out of that loop, or if we could just put our energy in something that feels more fun and exciting and rewarding. Sleep, I don't know, I don't consider it fun or exciting, but it was rewarding because I was able to really manage my energy in a better way, or what felt like a better way for me, because I was rested. So hopefully that one makes sense. Number 4, this one to me is kind of huge, because I hear this from so many people. When we start to recognize and follow our intuition, we can have this practice of quieting our noisy, chatty, disruptive gremlin minds. And that's huge. Why? Because it decreases our anxiety. We feel less stuck. We feel less deer in the headlights. So that to me is huge. And I'm going to talk a little bit about strategies, because I know we talk about like the monkey mind and how it's hard to settle the mind when we have the monkey mind. And I think I have a meditation on that, actually. I'll link that. I know I do, actually. I know I have one up. So how to quiet that monkey mind. And I think because we have so much access to so much information now, nowadays, that we feel bombarded with stuff, right? And it's hard not to have that monkey mind. So just know, I don't know if anyone's done any research on that, if that's increased. I would be curious to see, because we're very distracted. We're very distracted as a culture. And we are very scattered, and we don't have the attention span that we used to, because I think of social media and just access to information and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, so that was number 4. Number 5, we begin to understand that our body, this one, this one's important. We begin to understand that our body, our life, our world isn't just some random mishmash of random occurrences acting against us. I think a lot of times we assign like my body is doing something I don't like, right? It's doing something against me. And I know I used to talk about my thyroid in that way, is like, oh, my body's my body literally is attacking itself. But it was like it was a sense of like me against my body, and no, it's not, right? Like, how do I learn to live with this? How do I ease this? What is it telling me? What do I need to know about what my body is telling me, right? And the same goes for our life and our world. It's not that things are acting against us, they're just happening. Things are just occurring. We assign the label of good or bad, right? And some things, yes, stress, of course. There's a lot of struggle and um, really scary stuff happening in the world right now. I totally recognize that. But for our purpose, we're just going to take it down into our day-to-day existence. And so when we do that, when we think about how it's not just a mishmash of occurrences, we start to increase our belief that we can actually have an impact on our own life circumstances, which when I say it out loud, it sort of makes me snicker because I'm like, of course we do. Of course we have that ability. But I think we tend to discount it. I think we tend to minimize our ability to impact our own lives, right? So when we have that belief that like I can create change, or I can do things differently, or I can change my habits, or patterns and relationships, or whatever it might be, when we start to have that belief and truly believe that belief, things sort of open up for us. We're able to look at things from a different perspective. We're able to really um, take different, oh my gosh, make different make different choices for ourselves so we can take different actions. My words were getting flip-flop for some reason. I couldn't get them straight. So I think that's really important to know for us, that things aren't just acting against us, that we can be actively an active participant in our life, right? So that's a really good feeling. And then also, the last thing that I wrote down is that we begin to see that we're not alone, that we're not isolated from ourselves, but also from other people, the world, the universe, that we're connected. We're connected to all of those things. And for me, that's a really, to me, that indicates when we recognize that connection, when we can feel and sense or know that connection, it really decreases some of our depressive thoughts or depression. Because when we're depressed, we're very isolated, we feel like we're very alone, and the reality is we're not. We're very connected. We just have to be open to seeing those connections. And when we do get, I talk about like signs and synchronicities, from nature, from the universe. I feel like that's another way of us knowing that we are connected. We're connected to something bigger than ourselves. But then to be connected to ourselves through intuition, it doesn't feel so lonely, right? So for me, those are really huge. And I know I'm biased, but those are really huge reasons why we should really work on tapping into our intuitive knowing, or understanding our intuitive knowing, how it appears for us. So it sort of got me thinking, actually, about, I put my book somewhere. Sort of got me thinking about this book. This is Man's Search for Meaning, by Viktor Frankl. And we had learned about Viktor Frankl probably in undergrad and grad school. Well, definitely grad school. But he was a psychiatrist, and he was a Holocaust survivor. He was, you might have to fact check me on this. I think he was in a concentration camp for 3 years. You might want to double check me, but I know one of the camps that he was in was Auschwitz. So he survived. And every time I hear about people that survived, I want to know about, like, what is their resiliency? How do they do that? And he had a really interesting way of looking at therapy, or looking at the reason why we're here, or what creates pain within our lives. And I'm going to read his direct quote, because otherwise, I'll mess it up. But I have: in between stimulus and response, there is space. And in that space lies our power to choose our response. In our response lives our growth and our freedom. So I'll say that again because it's huge. In between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response, and in our response lives our growth and our freedom. This is, to me, well, of course it's insightful, but this to me is like one of those things that we really have to understand. We get very reactive when we're emotionally triggered. We get very reactive and we respond in ways that don't really feel like our normal selves, don't really feel like it's coming from our higher self, doesn't really feel like we're intuitively inclined to make these choices or say these things or have these behaviors. And the truth is we're not fully there, right? And so we do have to practice. How do we put a pause in between the stimulus and our response, the event, the experience, the words that somebody said to us, whatever it might be, and how we're going to respond as opposed to react, right? That pause in between is so important. When we practice that pause, when we practice having a little bit more of reflection, a little time to check in with ourselves, that's when we can recognize our intuitive thoughts, our intuitive knowing, sense, feel, whatever way it comes for you, as opposed to just reacting. We're just on autopilot at that time. And that's what creates more struggle. So if somebody says something hurtful to us and we react by saying something even more hurtful, it's going to explode, right? But if somebody says something hurtful and we take that pause and we reflect on, like, okay, how am I feeling in this moment? How am I interpreting what they've said, or what is going on with them that I'm not aware of that would make them say this, or not make them, but and then how do I want to respond? Do I want to respond with love, kindness? Do I want to respond with anger and bitterness? Do I want to just retaliate and, come claws out? It gives us a little bit of information so that we can have something that feels like a little bit more of flow. And so to me, I wrote down just a little bit of information about how we can not only create that pause in our life, but then how that is so tied to our intuition and really understanding that intuitive wisdom and how to build on that intuitive wisdom. I feel like I've been saying a lot. So if you have anything, put it out there. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going because I'm going to go through some of the things that I think that'll help us connect to our intuitive wisdom, help us with that pause in that middle. So this book it's all about, so he has this logotherapy. It breaks down into like meaning therapy, basically. And man's search for meaning. So he really looks at, like, we're in this life to have meaning, we go through life searching for our meaning, our purpose, that sort of thing. So this book is just about his experiences in the concentration camps, essentially, and then a little snippet about the therapy that he created, or the modality that he created. And I think there is maybe just a little piece at the end. And this is going back obviously decades. I'm sure this is like 4th or 5th reprint or something crazy of this book. So it's just his observations. But I loved that quote. I loved that quote by him. So how do we connect and trust our intuitive wisdom? You probably already have a way that you're not maybe consciously aware of, but hopefully it's there. The first thing that you can do is simply acknowledge, I am intuitive. I am an intuitive woman, and claim that I'm intuitive, right? No matter what somebody else says, no matter what somebody has said about your decision making or how you take action or the plans that you make, release that stuff. And from today on, I acknowledge that I am intuitive. I am an intuitive woman or man, right? I think it's so important that not only we say it, we feel it, we believe it, we know it, right? This is the truth. We all have intuition. And, sometimes, so when I was working with people, it was in the women's group that the women were saying that they didn't have that intuitive knowing. I'm like, you do. So we all have that. The second step is to really learn, how do you receive your intuitive messages? So, is it a thought? Is it a feeling? Is it a sense? It's funny. I was in a relationship when I was younger, and my partner would get really frustrated with me when I would meet somebody and I would instantly have a reaction to them, and usually it wasn't a good one. I have a really good radar for people that um, aren't healthy, I guess. And I think part of it is because of working with just really a challenging population and just being very aware of that. But I think naturally I'm very attuned to energy. I do think I'm highly sensitive. I know I'm an empath. And so, you know, I would pick up on stuff and I'd be like, oh no, this person is not a good person, or this isn't somebody that I want to spend my time with. And my partner would get real frustrated with me and be like, don't be a jerk, give him an opportunity. And then we'd hear later on, oh, they did this or they did that, or, and it was like, okay, so maybe you pick up energy, maybe you pick up that intuitive knowing is energy, and maybe you can't put it into words yet, but you feel, I don't feel comfortable with this person. I don't feel safe with this person, or I don't feel safe about this situation. It can come in all different ways. So really knowing or learning how you receive your messages is super important. Don't expect it to be like anybody else's. Don't discount if it comes in a different way. There is no best way. Like I said earlier, there's no best way to receive your intuitive messages. So give yourself a little bit of grace and just allow that learning process to happen. And you might think about, when you were younger, how did you know stuff? Or how did you feel like you knew stuff? Or how did you move through your day? And I'm talking about going back to when you were really little, and think about, like, what sort of things came to you in those moments when you were playing or happy or whatever. So that might help as well. So we want to acknowledge that we have intuition. We want to be able to recognize how we get those messages. And then with that, we want to be able to really know the difference between, is it an intuitive message or is it my fear thoughts? So I was talking to a client a couple months ago, and we've had several conversations about this, that because it's such a powerful message, she believes that that's my intuition. My intuition is telling me this is true because it's so powerful. Or she feels it. She feels a physical reaction to those thoughts. And we've done a lot of work on, it's actually your anxiety, it's your fear. That's not your intuition. There's a difference between those two. The fear is the thing that's going to create more worry. Um, JL says, I get a lot of numbers that appear when I'm thinking of things. For example, 444. Could it be intuition or more a universe signs? That can be either. So I think your intuition is usually the thing that draws you to look at the clock and be like, oh, 444, right? But those signs are like, what was I thinking in that moment? It's good to kind of reflect on, like, what was I thinking in that moment when I saw the 444? Or what was I planning on doing? Those could be those nudges that are like, hey, you're on track. It also could be somebody, the universe, somebody within the universe, trying to get your attention, to say, like, hey, I'm thinking about you, or hey, I'm here, or hey, don't forget about me, right? When we notice that we did that. And it's funny that you say that, the 444 thing yesterday, or 444 thing, because yesterday, I don't know what my deal was, but every time I looked up at the clock, it was 2:22, 3:33, 4:44, 5:55, and then I had something to do in the evening, so I didn't look at the clock anymore. But, like, it was consecutive, and I was like, okay, I need to look at, like, what have I been thinking about, or who have I been talking to, what's been on my mind. And to me, it was just, sort of that, yeah, it was kind of awesome. It's sort of like that recognition that, okay, there's something happening. So it could be either. The other thing is, if you're stuck in, like, worry thought loops, it could be something that's trying to disrupt that, right? Trying to get you out of that fear thought and trying to get you back into your intuition. So checking in with yourself, how do you feel when you see 444, or other things like that? What does it make you think of? So tapping into your intuition that way of like, okay, so what does it mean to me? How do I feel? If you feel excited when you see that, it's probably something that's a message for you, right? If you feel concerned or feel overwhelmed, then it's probably not a message. Um, probably is though, but yeah, that's cool. Um, and I'm just gonna ask real quick. So when you're thinking of things that are stress related or positive? Because that would be curious too. If it was only happening to you like when you're on the right track or when you're, I only see it when I'm like really stressed out or worried, right? So it could be just a way to guide your attention or not. Yeah, so thanks for that. Um, Okay, so another big one. So talking about that pause, practicing mindfulness. Oh, stress usually. Okay, so it's probably your intuition being like, don't, don't put the time and energy into that. No, focus back on here. Or maybe the universe is saying, we've got something bigger and better for you. Don't worry about the stress stuff, right? That could be too. So the next tip I have is practice mindfulness. Actively being present in the moment is kind of the concept of mindfulness. And there's lots of books, there's lots of strategies. You could probably just Google it. I have a book in front of me, The Now Effect. I really like that because it's just little excerpts of like how you can use them in different ways, use the strategies or techniques, and he tells a little story with it. But I love the concept of staying present. When I see people taking a walk and they've got like their headphones on or they're looking at their phone or I'm like, okay, it's good that you're out in nature, but you're not really present with yourself, right? You're distracted or checking emails or whatever's happening. So practice just being present. And I know a lot of times people do that with like mindful eating. Really recognize when my body is telling me I'm full or really enjoying my food, not just like scarfing it down to eat to be done or whatever. That can be, a mindful moment. When I start to feel a physical sensation, like when I start to get like irritated, annoyed, stressed, I clench my jaw. And so I can feel that like, ooh, what am I doing? Why am I feeling stressed or overwhelmed? So just mindfully reflecting to yourself, like what's happening for me in this moment, is really an important way to connect to our intuition because the body's telling us something or the mind's telling us something. We just have to pay attention to what that is. So another big one, and I know this can be a struggle for a lot of people that maybe don't have a practice, but practicing meditation, to me, meditation is being fully present in your body. So if it feels like, oh man, meditation, I don't know if I can do it. Start with breath work to begin to connect to your body. And it can be as simple as just deep breath in, full and complete exhale out, right? It doesn't have to be anything super fancy. My favorite technique for breath work is called counted breath. It breaks down into like 4, 7, and 8. It's an inhale through the nose for 4, you hold it for 7, and then you exhale through the mouth for 8. So you're really thinking about different things. You're using different parts of your brain for this, but it's in through the nose for 4, holding it for 7, exhaling it for 8. And you do that in like 3 sets basically, and then kind of check in with your body. So you can use a specific breath work technique, or you could just breathe in, breathe out, right? That's it. That's as simple. So we want to do that because as we start to do breath work, we start to relax the body. When the body starts to relax, the mind starts to relax. So that's one way to kind of calm or soothe that monkey mind. The other thing is when you're starting with meditation for the first time, don't be like, I'm going to meditate for 30 minutes. Start really, really small. If you feel like I am struggling just with quieting my mind, just do a little bit of breath work. That's it. Don't put the expectation of meditation as well. Just start with that. And then if you feel like, okay, I've got that, then you can start adding a little bit more to that. One of the things I like the sequentialness. I don't know if that's a word, but I like the sequence of when I'm preparing myself to meditate. Not that I'm checking things off my list, but I start with breath work. I do a little bit of grounding. So I'm fully present and I feel fully in my body. But I'm also connecting energetically to something for support. So I connect to Earth. I can connect to Mother Earth. So you can do that if you have that connection. It sort of grounds you, and so you feel very stable and present and held. So if you're starting again with meditation and it feels too overwhelming, start with the small stuff. If you feel like your body is starting to calm, then maybe set a timer and do like a minute of meditation. 3 minutes of meditation. 3 minutes is actually long when you first begin. When I'm working with clients and they've never meditated before and we do 3 minutes, it's a really long time. They start to get uncomfortable because they're like, this is long. Yeah, it is long. It's hard to be quiet. It's hard to not have noise, distraction, whatever, right? You silence your phone and you don't hear the buzzes or feel the vibration. So start small. So once you've done that, you can also start checking in with yourself, not during meditation, but I guess you could, but check in with yourself, and observe your energy level, your emotions, your thoughts, your needs, stuff like that. Um, so we want to always do that whenever we're doing something that's sort of observational. We want to do it without judgment or criticism. So instead of me beating up on myself that like, you're tired, you slept like 6 hours, you should be fine, which I'm not. I need like 8 to 10. But if you start beating yourself up for like a basic need, it's going to set you up for failure, right? So just observe. I'm sort of tired, and then sort of assess, would it benefit me if I went back to bed for 30 minutes? I don't know if that's enough, but let's pretend. Would it make me feel better? Would it detract or deter from the stuff that I have to do for the rest of the day? Would there be a negative outcome or would there be a benefit? So you're just really observing and kind of giving yourself space to think about it. And this is really important because we're creating that pause. We've had something that has happened, and then we're putting a pause there, and then we're responding, right? So this helps as well because then we can tap into the intuition. What am I needing? What do I want? What am I feeling? Why is this important for me? Why is this coming up now? Just getting curious about it, right? So this can be really good because when we have that practice of checking in with ourselves, we're less likely to miss those intuitive hits. When we're just going, doing, and we don't have rest, we really don't have any time to check in. We don't have any time to observe or to reflect on how we're doing. So if it feels like I don't get any intuitive hits, slow down, take some time, check in with yourself. So I just have one other one for somebody that's beginning to build that intuitive muscle. Start to journal or jot down what you've been experiencing for what you think could be like an intuitive hit. So this helps to see if there's a pattern, see how information comes to you, and then see what happens with that information. So if you note to yourself, oh, I keep seeing 444, right? Or whatever it might be. What was I thinking in that moment? What happened after that moment? How did I feel in that moment? And then, oh, on Tuesday, I saw 444 again. What was I thinking? How was it? All that kind of stuff, right? So if it's stress that, those things are coming up to you, maybe it's your intuition saying like, slow down, stop, pay attention to me, right? I'm your higher self and I want to guide you in a place that feels good. So when we practice that seeing, sensing, knowing, feeling, however it comes in, that intuitive wisdom, it gets stronger. And the cool thing about that is when we get those things from ourselves, when we are able to tap into our intuition, we're able to see it happen for us in the universe. We start to see the wisdom of the universe. We start to trust in that if I can receive those messages from myself, I can receive it from other places, the universe, right? And we start to trust in like that divine timing, which I know really, like I was saying at the beginning, can feel really disconcerting sometimes when it's like, I want it now and it's not coming to us. So hopefully that helps. This has been an I'll just say this has been an interesting week. Again, it's funny that I didn't realize how overwhelmed, how stressed I was until this morning. I had that moment of like, okay, I feel better. Didn't know I was feeling that bad until I felt better. So, any questions, put them in there. I'm going to pull a card and see what we need to know about growing our intuition or understanding divine timing. And then we're going to do a little bit of Reiki and meditation. I'm going to combine the two together because I know we're sort of short on time. But we're gonna have a little bit of we're gonna plant the seeds for not only intuition but divine timing. So we're gonna supercharge. We're gonna supercharge our intuition and our intuitive knowing. So what do we need to know? Oh, you're welcome. JL says those are wonderful tips. Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, all right then. I like this. So the card that I pulled was Elder, and you can see, well, I don't know if you can see, I know there's like a funky reflection, but there's a deer, there's a buck, and then you can't, I don't know if you can see, there's also, so there's a buck over here, there's a deer, and then there's a couple deer in the back. Oh, another buck. That might be a fawn on the side. So this is the Native Spirit deck by Denise Lynn. I love it. I'm not going to give my 2 cents. I'm not going to give my 2 cents to you, but I'm going to read it to you. So confidence, entering your power, standing strong. You are a leader, stepping into the light. Let your truth be heard and felt by others. Make a stand in your life. You carry deep inner wisdom. You are a teacher and a leader in the deepest sense of the words. You are a beacon for others. In Native cultures, the elders, tribal chiefs, and clan leaders are looked to for advice and leadership. When this card chooses you, it's time to step into your leadership role. An elder walks the path, stomps the grass down, and throws the boulders out of the way so that the path is easier for others. Sometimes you might find yourself alone or tired, but know that what you're doing is making a difference in the lives of many. The greatest leaders are those who know how to serve, supporting others to reach their dreams. Even if you've been in the background in the past, right now is the time to turn forward, becoming the light for others. I am going to put my 2 cents. I wasn't going to. I'm going to put my 2 cents in. So she says the journey is being an elder and a tribal leader means speaking your truth, even if it's hard or even if you're afraid. If there's anyone you need to stand up to, this is the time. Being a leader means supporting others. So if there's anything you need to support or make amends with, this is the time. And I like this card in response to in reference, I don't know, to what we're talking about with intuition, because part of that is speaking your truth, part of that is being a leader, but really thinking about being a leader of yourself, right? How do I show myself the path? How do I walk that walk? How do I talk that talk with myself? Once I do it with myself, it's very easy to do it with others. So starting with there, and so we have just been talking about this week was Wise Woman, honoring our wise woman within. And so this sort of made me snicker when I just pulled that because I was like, curious. And that's why I was like, oh, I'm not going to put my 2 cents in. But for anyone that's listening, that's part of the Soul Journey Group Coaching membership, and we've been talking about Wise Women this week. How are you allowing your wise woman to speak? How are you allowing to not only have your voice heard, but showing up for yourself with strength and courage to be a leader? So that's my 2 cents on that. For anybody else, take from whatever I read, take what is meaningful for you, throw away the rest. If you haven't been working on connecting to your wise woman, it kind of doesn't, may not resonate for you, but that I think is important for us to know. Awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pull this a little bit closer, pull my mic a little bit closer because I'm going to get quiet. So why don't we do just a little bit of meditating, a little bit of, so I like the phrase, somebody has, I think it's somebody's actual practice, Reiki infused meditation, but that's what this is. I'm infusing our meditative time with Reiki because I'm sending you Reiki, and we're doing a little bit of meditation. So I'm just going to light a little, that's a giant piece, but I'm just going to light a little bit of sage. So anything that came up for you during this, if you felt like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do, or I don't even know what my intuition is, let's just clear that. Let's just begin to release that. Remember, we're going to start afresh, start anew. It's that time. So just, if you're able to, just close your eyes. If you're not comfortable with closing your eyes completely, just allow your gaze to soften. You can look past your computer, your phone, or whatever device you're on, just to soften that gaze so you're not staring or feeling intense. But just take a moment for yourself. And let's start to do a little bit of breath work. So we're going to do 4, 7, 8 together. So I need to take a breath in and then release it before I start. So go ahead and take one for yourself just to get rid of all the extra breath. So we're going to breathe in through our nose for 4. We're going to hold it for 7. And we're going to release it through our mouth for 8. In through our nose. Hold it. Out through our mouth. In through our nose again. Hold it. Out through our mouth for 8. And I held it longer for 7 on that one. I just needed a little bit more time. So now just go back to deeply breathing in and out through your nose and your mouth. In through your nose. Out through your mouth. Settling into whatever your perfect pattern is. It does not have to match mine. Just starting to release any tension. Relaxing the body. It relaxes the mind. And if you're seated, upright, if you're sitting, there we go, and you have your feet on the ground, just imagine from your feet just extending roots, vines, energetic strands, energetic cords, anything from your feet into the earth. We're going to ground you to Mother Earth. So those cords or those roots are coming out from your feet, going through your floor, through the foundation of the building you're in, into the topsoil of the earth, going deeper into the earth through all the layers till it enters the center of the earth, where Gaia, Mother Earth, is there to receive your roots, your cords. She's willing to receive those cords, those roots. She gives you a little tug to let you know that she has you. And from those roots, we can release anything that's been blocking our intuition, whether it's conscious for us or not. It doesn't really matter. Anything that has felt like it's been a barrier to tapping into your intuition, just release that down your grounding cord. Anything that has come up for you about divine timing, just release that down there. And instead be open to receiving. Just receiving any messages that you need to know still about your intuition, about divine timing, just allowing that to come up the roots, come up the vines, come up the cords into your physical body, just allowing that to come up. And if you don't have any thoughts that come, if you're not aware of that, it's okay. Setting the intention intention to release, the intention to receive. That's all we need to do. So I'm going to send a little bit of Reiki. And all you need to do to receive the Reiki is just acknowledge to yourself that you're open to receiving. If you have a specific intention, you can set it. You're more than welcome to set it. We're just going to allow the affirmations to sort of imprint. Let them fall where they may. Each day, I practice to grow my intuition. Whatever that means to you, whatever form that you welcome in. My intuition is my true self speaking to me. When I am fully present for myself, I hear, I sense, I know my intuition. My intuition guides me. I trust that guidance on my personal life path. My intuition offers me clarity and guidance. I give myself permission to release any past pain about divine timing or intuition. You can also continue to just release that down your grounding cord. I experience peace in the present by being present. I move forward with a grateful and happy heart. And even though in the moment I don't always see the wisdom and divine timing, I am in the perfect place at the perfect time on my path. And I trust that everything unfolds again in perfect divine timing, all for my highest good. Just allowing those to imprint. There's nothing that you have to do with them. Not thinking it through or remembering. Just allowing it to be received by you. Practicing being present. Practicing quieting the mind. Settling the body. Through breath and intention. If you want to imagine just drawing up your roots or your grounding cords, your energetic strands, whatever you visualized, just bringing it back up to the body. We're going to send thanks to Gaia, to Mother Earth, for her support, for her nutrients, nourishment, her wisdom, her ability to take our crap and turn it into something positive. Let's take a moment to thank any of your guides, any of your allies, any of your guardians that came to support you and will continue to support you. Sending thanks to your higher self for keep trying to tap on your shoulder, to give you those nudges, to give you those signs, those gentle, soft whispers of intuition that sometimes turn into great big shoves, but that your higher self loves you and wants you to feel just balanced and whole. Thank your body for all that it does for you, where it carries you through this life. Sending thanks to your emotional and mental body, your mind. Trying to keep you safe, even if it stresses you out sometimes. It's just doing what it thinks is its job. I send thanks and gratitude for you being here, continuing to commit to your personal growth and transformation, and all those who listen later. Set an intention for yourself to continue to connect to your intuition, to maybe have some patience with divine timing, some understanding. It's not always going to happen on our timeline. And then just release. anything else. And in your own time, come back to the present, come back to your body, come back to whatever you may have to do for the day, and open your eyes. If you had them shut, if you didn't, you can just refocus. So hopefully, I know that wasn't a ton of time, but hopefully that was enough time to just reconnect with your body, to really be open to connecting to your intuition, to understanding. Sometimes we don't even have to understand divine timing, just be accepting of it, that we're going to be where we need to be for our highest good. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I know there's been times in my life where I've been like, this is a bunch of crap, right? And I'm not really happy about where I'm at or what I'm experiencing. And then of course, later on we have perspective of like, I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that I didn't take that job. I wasn't in that relationship, or, I didn't get in my car in that moment. And I was, I missed something, but maybe there was something better that came from it. So divine timing, its own thing, but as long as we can stay focused on what we're needing, what we're experiencing, and sort of understanding that pause between the experience, the event, whatever is happening, and our response. So we're not so reactive, I think is really huge. So I'm actually going to put this into I'm going to create a blog out of this, or I already wrote my blog, but I'm going to put a blog and I'll put that up. But you're always welcome, obviously, to listen to this again. Oh, this was so powerful and beautiful. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad it was. And I want to say a couple things before I end. I know I am over time, but I just wanted to say so if you're really struggling with thinking of your intuition as part of you, as your higher self, if you're struggling with that concept, you can name it, you can give it like an embodiment or an image or something. So it doesn't really feel so abstract. And you can't really see behind me is a picture. Well, you might be able to, but there's some glare with the lights. But this is my embodiment of my intuition. So I have a name for her. She is somebody that years ago, we're going back like, oh my gosh, 98, 99. It wasn't even 2000 yet. I was in a meditative state with actually a practitioner that I used to work with, and he was calling in my intuition and calling in that inner compass, that guidance system for me. And I was kind of journeying with that and seeing what comes up for me with what does my intuition look like to me, right? And it came up as this image. And I didn't really know what it was. I didn't really understand it. And then I started working with it, and years go by and we're back in that state. I'm with the practitioner. We're kind of doing that meditative journeying again. And it comes back and I'm like, oh my God, this is something from like years ago. And he was like, you've got to find this physical representation because you already have it in your mind. And I was talking to my husband about it, and this was like, like I said, like 5 or 6 years later, maybe even 7, I don't know. But I'm telling him about it and how I imagined it and what it looked like. And he found this picture online, and it was exactly how I imagined it's her to be. So she has a name, and she is the embodiment of my intuition. You can create that for yourself if you want. If you're like, hey, I want to go on a journey and meet my embodiment of intuition, let me know. That's something that I can do with you. We can do that together online, which is really cool. Over Zoom, we can do that. So it's a really neat practice, but it's just something when it doesn't feel like you have just gas in the reserves. I mean, there's just nothing left in the tank, and you're like, I can't follow my intuition. I can't sense my intuition. I can't receive those messages. You can go back and say, let her do it, or let him do it, or let it do it, or whatever it ends up being. I just, leave it up to her and allow her to kind of guide me. And there it is. And so it is part of me, right? It is an essence of myself. It is a representation, but it helps me because I'm just the way my brain works. I need to like see and I need something. So that was a really neat experience for me. It's something obviously is still important to this day. I mean, 2023, we're going back. That's 24, 25 years that I've been working with this. So that's something that's really fun that you can do also with intuition. Divine timing, you just gotta have trust and patience for that. But it definitely comes. And so hopefully this was helpful. Next week I'm going to be here, and I think what is that, the 27th? 20, it's going to be a cool one. We're going to, so we're going to, in Soul Journey group coaching membership, we're going to be exploring ancestors, sort of having a little bit of time to maybe forgive or remove some ancestral trauma. And then also honoring, though, the ancestral wisdom that still helps us, right? Still guides us. Just, JL just looked at the clock, 111. But anyways, so the cool thing about that is we're going to create something that is going to be like an energetic brush just to get rid of stuff like on our body. I'm going to teach you guys how to do that. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in the Q&A on Friday. And then we'll do, of course, a little bit, if we have time, a little bit of Reiki and Reiki infused meditation is what I've been calling it. So we'll do that too. So I'm super excited. The registration for the membership is, I closed it out because it's sort of like a 7-week container. But I'll open it back up again if anyone wants to join for the month of November. I'll open it up around Halloween, actually, like right before then. If you want to join just for November, you're more than welcome to. If you want to consider doing the next season, so I do it seasonally. The next season is going to be obviously winter in the Northern Hemisphere at least. And you're more than welcome to do that. If you have any questions, you can head over to my website. There's probably information on there. I can put the link, but I will put the link. I'll put the link on in the description when I do the timestamp. And so you can get that. And then I'll also link to that monkey mind that I was talking about earlier. So if there's any questions, put them in. Otherwise, I will go head out to have lunch. So I know it takes a little, there's like lag time. There's lag time between the chat and me saying something in the chat. So if you have anything, put it out there. If not, Jill says yes. No? Okay, awesome. All right, everyone. Well, take care. If you're listening to this today, I hope you have a fabulous weekend. If you're listening at another time, I hope you have a wonderful day. And I look forward to us connecting again. So everybody, take care.